everybody. My name is Camille Flores. I am an ethnomusicology student studying at Arizona State University. Trying to get my master's right now, and today I am going to talk to you about the Mariachi Protesta seen in a lot of U.S. protest demonstrations. Throughout history, music has been utilized in a variety of ways to make socio-political statements, often through the lyrical content of a song. It is rare, however, if an entire artistic subgenre of music becomes a mode of protest in the face of socio-political turmoil. According to Gunther Kress, a scholar in multimodal theory and linguistics, modes are the result of a social and historical shaping of materials chosen by society for representation. From this perspective, a subgenre of music can be a mode if it is relevant to society. It is therefore possible to situate an entire musical subgenre as a mode of protest so long as the subgenre is widely known or practiced throughout a culture. Analyzing multimodal sources from various news outlets, the subgenre mariachi is not only utilized as a mode of protest, but it is used as a representational marker of immigrant autonomy in light of an anti-immigrant border policy state. This is specifically addressing border policies enacted between 2015 and 2019 in the United States. Equating immigrant identity as representational of Mexicanidad through musical expression, the modern-day mariachi band's presence in protest is much more than entertainment. It is an oral statement of sovereignty. By utilizing mariachi performance within protest as a tool of identity declaration, the immigrant has become increasingly visible in a political administration seeking to decrease immigrant autonomy. Before the 2015 presidential campaign, mariachi became a symbol of Mexicanness in Mexico and then eventually transferred to the United States in around the 1930s. The Porfirian and Cardenas Mexican government encouraged a large push toward forming a unified Mexican national identity called Mexicanidad. This also means Mexicanness. Mariachi was included in this nationalistic push and was identified as, quote, the official national ensemble of Mexico, defining mariachi as synonymous with what it means to be a Mexican individual. Widely accepted as a marker of Mexicanidad throughout Mexico, many scholars agree that mariachi was and continues to be a legitimate symbol of Mexican identity. According to scholars Russell Rodriguez and Mary Mulholland, mariachi's symbol of Mexicanness slowly transferred to mariachi ensembles in the United States between 1930 and 2003. Following more than 70 years of acceptance and practice in Mexicanidad communities, mariachi also became a symbol of Mexicanidad in the United States. Resultantly, mariachi is an embedded part of Mexican-American identity, where Mexican-American immigrants' identities can be expressed through the mariachi ensemble itself. Following the 2015 platform for Republican candidacy, candidate Donald J. Trump adopted a, quote, build the wall policy into his immigration policies. The policy focused on immigration from Latin America and eventually on one Latin American racial group, Mexican immigrants. The wall policy stated that by building a wall on the border between Mexico and the United States, Donald Trump could ensure physical safety and job security to the public from immigrants entering through this specific border. These policies began to be pitched to voters as motive to stop Mexico from, quote, sending people that have lots of problems who are bringing drugs. They're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. Three of the statements had no basis, in fact. In fact, the crime rate among first-generation immigrants is lower than that for native-born Americans. So this quote by Evan Osnos kind of sheds light on a situation where fact-based ideas versus various claims made by this administration led to ideological tensions. So the wall policy allowed candidate Donald Trump to specifically point out Mexican immigrants, painting them as negatively impactful on the United States. Such descriptions are juxtaposed, though, by renowned journalist Evan Osnos' peer-reviewed quantitative data about Mexican immigrants. Juxtaposed facts posed against the wall policy statement spurred ideological tensions between United States voters who either supported these policy statements or supported quantitative data presented by scholars or journalists like Osnos. As a result, ideological divisions formed within the United States. In response to the wall policy, journalist Khalifa Saneh notes that candidate Donald Trump drew facts from Ann Coulter's book called Adios America, The Left's Plan to Turn Our Country into a Third World Hellhole. Both the wall policy statement and Coulter describe Mexican immigrants as rapists, drug dealers, and crime-ridden. Parallels drawn between the policy and Coulter's book created a larger ideological division within the United States. Coulter and Saneh found it important in both of their texts to talk about the mariachi in their iterations of the wall policy. What does the mention of the mariachi alongside immigration policy mean, though? Mariachi in the context of the wall policy represents Mexicans, Mexican Americans, and immigrants who identify with Mexicanidad in any respect. Mariachi symbolizes Mexicanidad and represents those who associate themselves with the term itself. In response to the wall policy and growing tensions between pro and anti-wall voters, multiple mariachi protests occurred throughout the U.S. Because facts had been missing from policy statements, ill sentiment against the Mexicanidad developed within the United States. Minorities were targeted in and outside the borders, and policies against immigration via the Mexican-United States border was the catalyst for this ill sentiment. Xenophobia, pointed minoritization, and policy semiotics of the Mexican immigrant gave the Mexicanidad community a motive to protest against the wall policy using the mariachi. The Mexicanidad and mariachi community is framed as a population under political policy attack through the lens of multimodal theory. As Mexicanidad community members began protesting against a policy that attacked them, their identity is expressed through mariachi performance during each demonstration. The Mexicanidad community has a sign-making motive and an interest to use the resource of mariachi. Protesting shifts the power imbalance between governmental policies and the mariachi-armed Mexicanidades, which allows Mexican-American immigrants to declare their presence in the United States via the mariachi performance. Cielito Lindo is actually a really important song, so we're going to go through that really quick. So two folk songs performed in every single video I analyze in this paper are Cielito Lindo and Son de la Negra. So Cielito Lindo falls under a subgenre of mariachi called a ranchera, characterized by a boom chip pattern played between the guitarron and the vihuela. During the Mexican Revolution, the ranchera was used to talk about rural life's discontent with aristocratic politics. At the surface, Cielito Lindo talks about the vocalist's love of a woman's beauty. However, its 17th century lyrical origins discuss the fear people lived through when they traveled through the Sierra Morena mountains of Spain. It is believed that travelers feared bandits in this mountain range, and this song talks about a woman who was stolen by bandits and later rescued. The song gave hope to those in fear. The song ultimately stands, quote, as a symbol of complex identity representing old country Mexican traditions, nostalgic love, family ties, and modern love, end quote. Most of the recognizable lyrics is in the chorus, reading Canta y no llores, translating to sing and don't cry. The chorus tells protesters to sing instead of being upset, suggesting that mariachi songs are an effective mode of protest. Cielito Lindo displays a strong front the mariachi holds in the face of bandits, revolution, and political turmoil used for enduring hardship. On the other hand, Son de la Negra is a subgenre of mariachi called a son. It is played in a jarocho style. Sones are typically fast-paced, mixing groups of 2 and 3 strumming patterns. Historically, the son jarocho is politically charged, functioning as a musical demand for social justice, whose resistant roots are embedded in this music as it migrates into the United States, end quote. Specifically referring to Son de la Negra, the song came into fruition during the Mexican War of Independence. It speaks of a dark-skinned woman's beautiful, fluttering eyes, popularly referred to as the second national anthem of Mexico. Son de la Negra became a symbol of Mexicanidad as a result. When mariachis play this song, it is commonly used to express Mexican pride. This song was played twice on the evening of the 2016 presidential election at Trump Tower, which we'll talk about in a moment. The mariachi performed during a protest against immigration policies, once while discriminatorily being booted from the premises. So, Trump Tower 2016 is the first protest we're going to look at. On the eve of the presidential election, November 8th, 2016, a large group of protesters congregated around Trump Tower in Manhattan, unhappy with the outcomes of the election. Amongst those protesters was the mariachi band, visually performing, playing a large repertoire including Cielito Lindo amongst multiple sones like Son de la Negra. Son de la Negra is performed twice, once in performance, once while being escorted by law enforcement off of Trump Tower's premises. When the mariachi performed Son de la Negra the first time, it expressed a moment of Mexicanidad pride during the protest, giving Mexicanidad as a political platform to express discontent with Donald Trump's immigration policies. The mariachi band was booted from the premises by police officers as they disturbed the peace around Trump Tower, according to many reports. The importance of Son de la Negra, though, being performed twice, especially while the mariachi was being booted off of the premises, displays the demand for social justice David Hernandez mentioned when describing the function of a son jarocho, which is what Son de la Negra is. The protesters and supporters of Donald Trump, who waited outside Trump Tower, were visibly loud and just as distracting as the mariachi itself in the analyzed booting video. Yet the protesters were not being booted. Performing Son de la Negra uncovers an inequality behind the reasoning of booting the mariachi versus the protesters not being booted. Following multiple YouTube videos, the mariachi played songs while walking away from the tower. In an interview with Global News, one of the mariachis notes that the mariachi was playing outside the tower to experience more than one moment of happiness in a sad and impactful election before it ends. As the mariachi makes a political statement at the towers in response to the 2016 election, it spoke out for Mexicanidades as well. Occupy Lafayette Park. In the transition between 2017 and 2018, questions about Donald Trump's meeting with Vladimir Putin in Russia arose. Racial tensions were already at a high point at this time, and the wall was still being erected at the border. The meeting between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump was not announced to the public, and previous Cold War tensions with Russia, along with the notion of possible Russian interference with the 2016 election, gave way to the Occupy Lafayette Park protest. The meeting sparked the beginning of the Mueller probe investigating Russian interference with the 2016 election, and protests gathered in Lafayette Park to express their discontent with the situation. Mariachis were hired by Adam Parcamono and Felipe Reyes, who were advisors and aides of Donald Trump's opponent in the 2016 election. The presence of the mariachi in protest of the issues brought up by the Mueller probe was crowdfunded, with the intention of keeping President Donald Trump up at night with sonic disturbances that the mariachi produced. When mariachis were hired to play at events, they follow a procedure of performance outlined by Daniel Stishi called a chamba, which is the equivalent of a gig. At the beginning of this chamba, the mariachi chose to play Cielito Lindo. No requests were required. The active decision to play Cielito Lindo first at the protest displays how the mariachi chose to make a political statement against the Mueller probe. Following Cielito Lindo, multiple sones are performed, including Son de la Negra. Mexicanidad is expressed by the mariachi's performance, visually and orally highlighting the presence of Mexican-American immigrants in the protest and around the country. Mariachi Tapatio is the next group we're going to be looking at. In May 2018, racial tensions ran high in New York. Lawyer Aaron Schlossberg was recorded yelling at a grocery store employee for speaking Spanish to a Spanish-speaking customer. Following a published video of this outburst, the mariachi played Mariachi Tapatio was crowdfunded to perform in front of the lawyer's house, and played many sones and also played Cielito Lindo. Mariachi is used in this protest to reveal and advocate against the discriminative anti-Mexican immigrant behavior Schlossberg participated in. In May 2018, Donald Trump also visited Long Island to give a speech to fundraise money for his 2020 campaign, largely focusing on, again, resurrecting the wall between Mexico and the United States. The same mariachi played Cielito Lindo, and they politically charged their position in protest by playing in this protest. The mariachi's participation in political protests displays that the mariachi became a tool of popular protest against Mexicanidad discrimination, expressively validating the presence of Mexican-American immigrants in the United States. Chesapeake protests. So, toward the end of 2018 and continuing today, Donald Trump's political administration cracked down on the incarceration of immigrants. The administration authorized large amounts of immigrants and customs enforcement raids in Mexican immigrant concentrated areas of the United States. Images of mass incarceration paired with photos of families being separated and immigrant children being incarcerated were published across the United States, sparking outrage at the concept of immigrant child incarceration. JP Morgan Chase Bank donated large amounts of money to private detention centers holding these immigrants. So protesters rallied, and they hired Mariachi to sing Canción Mixteca, which is a ranchera that speaks of the longing to go back home to Mexico, stressing the immense feeling of loneliness that travelers feel. It goes without explanation that this song goes hand in hand with the issues of children being separated from their parents and taken into ICE custody because they are immigrants. So international implications, we can see here that Mariachi is doing a political critique used to protest. So the mariachi has been used actually outside of the United States as well. And this is just an example of the United Kingdom using mariachi to make a political statement here. So the Declaration of the South can be seen in Immigrant Autonomy. In each protest, its participants responded to anti-immigrant border policies. While the mariachi was present at each demonstration, the mariachis also participated in protest-based political statements. As a mode of identity expression, the mariachi's participation in protest against anti-immigrant policies displays an oral Mexicanidad presence in each demonstration, where the Build the Wall policy seeks to eliminate Mexican immigrant presence in the United States. The same individuals protesting against the policy are using mariachi to establish their presence in the United States. Musics across the world are used to express sovereignty in the face of political turmoil, and mariachi is no different in the United States. The mariachi serves as an oral statement of sovereignty, expressing Mexicanness in an anti-Mexican immigrant environment. Unquote. The reinforcement of Mexicanidad identity within protest declares autonomy and validates the presence of Mexican immigrants within these protests. Thank you for your time. If you would like to contact me further, this is my contact information, and thank you for this opportunity.